You're listening to the servant of God, Pastor Banky.
There's a principle about life which we must all know, and that is the fact that the most important thing on earth are the human beings that live on this earth. We actually control, without our realizing that that's what is happening, we control the things that happen around. Now, when I say control, sometimes we don't do it deliberately. We are doing things, and without our realizing it, that thing is causing effect somewhere else. If you read from the book of Leviticus chapter 18, God taught the children of Israel when they were going into the promised land, the things that they must not do when they get in there. And he called those things abomination. He had to do with their moral lifestyle and stuff like that. And he told them that when you do these abominations, this is what happens. He said the people that were in the land before you came, they did these things and the land became defiled, verse 25, so that the land has spewed out its inhabitants. He said, but as for you, if you keep my statutes and my judgments, and you don't do any of these abominations, he said, the land will not spew you out. Because if you do them, you will have defiled the land, and the land will also vomit you out the way he vomited out the people that were there before you. And this is the point I'm trying to make from there. The people did not realize that their acts of immorality, get my point, are the things causing natural disaster. That when the earth becomes barren, God is saying that it is not because of what they call the geological explanation that we will have for it, but because of the moral nature of the hearts of the people. That is why with God, what is paramount is that a godly character is developed in people. He said, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy waters. The Bible says that God is love. So when God says, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God, he was not looking for anything for himself. Because Paul explained to us in the 1 Corinthians chapter 13, he said, love does not seek his own. So if John says that God is love, that means that God does not ever seek his own. So when he says, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God, ask yourself, what am I going to give him? Nothing. Are you getting my point? But when he says, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God, he said, and he shall bless thy bread and thy waters. That is the reason why you are serving the Lord thy God, is so that he might bless thy bread and thy waters. That you're not serving the Lord thy God because of what he can get from you. You are serving the Lord thy God so that he might bless thy bread and thy waters. What I'm trying to explain here, that is for God, developing godly character is number one. The reason being that without that, he cannot bring blessings into our lives. If you go and read 2 Corinthians chapter 6, Paul was explaining it like this. He said, we have promises. At the end of that chapter, Paul began to describe promises. He said, God has given us these promises. And then in chapter 7, verse 1, he said, because of these promises, therefore, beloved, he said, let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of flesh and spirit and perfect holiness in the fear of God. That is, if God has promises for us, we will not be able to fulfill those promises except we cleanse ourselves of all defilement of flesh and spirit. Now, I'm talking about motivation for living. Let me not forget that. Therefore, what I'm explaining about it is this. We understand that if we are going to experience the blessing of God in life, if we are going to walk in that place that God ordained for us to walk in before we were born, number one thing we must have developed in us is what? Godly character. Therefore, it must be the goal of your life. I explained something before, and I'd like to say it again, that adversities in life, challenges and trials, James said they are the ways by which God develops his character in us. He said, beloved, count it all joy when you fall into diverse trials, because the trying of your faith works patience. He said, when patience has had its perfect work, he said, you will be perfect and entire, lacking in nothing. He was talking about godly character. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? God said, one thing is needful. Jesus was saying, this is the number one thing that is needful. The reason being that the things that come to you in life, they are actually as your spirit releases aura. You know, if you've read maybe about Eastern religion or, Buddhism or things like that, you hear people talk about aura. Aura. Now, that aura, it's not a lie. It really exists. That is, there's something about somebody. That is, when you approach a particular place, there's what your spirit introduces into the environment. And that's what I'm explaining again. That aura actually comes out of the character of your soul. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? That is, if a selfish man enters a place, okay, there's a spirit of selfishness that he releases. Or if you have a corrupt man becoming a ruler of a nation, there is a spirit of corruption that he releases. The example I gave the other time is about settlement in Nigeria. There was a time that settlement became a common word in Nigeria. Why? Because the man ruling then loved to settle. Now, that's the power of an aura. Now, if a man has a Libra soul, are you getting what I'm saying? If it's a Libra soul, now usually he has an aura about him. Now, that's something about Libra souls. When he gets to certain places, all right, where doors are closed to other people, the spirit around him opens doors for him. That's a matter of fact. That's a matter of fact. So what I'm explaining here is that when we talk about aura, what do we mean? People are talking about what you attract or you repel. What are the things? Are you a lucky person or you are an unlucky person? Some time ago, I heard about how Napoleon, or the French emperor, used to choose his commanders for battle. He said he used to say, get me a very good general. Make sure he's a lucky man. That is, there are certain people that just have this thing about them. And I'm explaining today that actually that thing comes from the character that is developed inside them. Are you getting my point? And that's a matter of fact about life. And that's what Jesus came to do, to give us the Christ-like spirit. Because once you have it, life responds to you naturally. That's the point I'm making. There's a mistake a lot of us make in this life. When we have problems, we run to church for prayer. When we have problems, we go for a program where somebody will pray for you and solve all your problems. When you are confused about life, you go and meet a preacher and tell him, ask God to tell me what I'm supposed to do. When we have problems, we want this instantaneous, what I call fire brigade measures. What do I mean by fire brigade? When a fire of confusion is upon us, we run to church to get water of direction poured upon the fire. And after that, we walk away. But you see, that is not what God designed for us to be. What does God want? He wants a life that is developed in godly character, so that when the man sees confusion, inside him, solution comes out naturally. Listen, you cannot rush to church every time you have a problem to have solutions. You must walk in a godly fashion so that problems will be afraid of you. Are you getting my point? The way I like to explain it, that when Jesus was on the boat, he and his disciples, the storm waited for him to fall asleep, knowing that he couldn't tackle him. So he waited for him to fall asleep, and then went after Peter, James, and John and said, oh, you sinful people. And he went after Peter, James, and John when the master was asleep. And as soon as the master woke up, the storm had to keep quiet. That is, the other people could rush to Jesus, please help us, help us. But every time he woke up, storms calmed down, because of the nature that had been developed inside his soul. And don't forget something. The Bible said he learned obedience from the things that he suffered. I'm leaving something with us today before I depart. And that's the fact that in every trial we have in life, God wants us to use that as an opportunity to develop godly character. Listen, let's assume you are starting out, you started a business, you started a career or something, and you are having challenges. Let me explain this to you. It is not because the career is not good or the business cannot work. It is because God is giving you the opportunity at the beginning to develop the necessary character to handle prosperity. Because the blessings of God, they are weighty. Are you getting my point? They are weight. They are difficult to carry. The Bible talked about the weight of glory. The weight of glory means that when God pours glory upon you, you need strength to carry it. Therefore, sometimes you want to go out into business, and God says that, look at this business. When this man has finally succeeded, he will be earning millions of naira every week. So at the beginning, what do? We must develop in him a very strong character. Therefore, the first 1 year, he tries. The business makes only 1,000 naira a week. It is not because God cannot make it do better. It is because while you are still earning 1,000 naira a week, you must learn how to behave yourself. Then as God sees your character developing, then he moves you up to 10,000 naira a week. And he sees your character developing, and he sees the generous spirit you're having, and despite the fact that he's blessing you, he sees that you are still as faithful as you were to the wife of thy youth. Then God said, yes.
We trust you were blessed by that short teaching. For more messages, books, and other materials, please visit our website at pastor.ng. Please do not forget to share these resources with others, and may the Lord be with you.